my name is Chad. I'm the owner, president, designer, and creator of Hookup Baits. Also the VP of sales and promotion. So that's my job.
Hi, I'm Jojo Pemberton. I am the CFO and the owner of Hookup Baits.
Yep, she's the business end.
You're the designer.
I'm the designer and promoting the face.
Yes.
The face of Hookup
The
Baits.
creator.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, well, I've been fishing since I basically can walk. I had a dad that fished. I had lived in the neighborhood of a bunch of rowdy boys, and we were either fishing or fighting pretty much our whole teenage life, from 8 years old until we all became adults. And we just fished all the local ponds. Just anywhere there was water, even if it didn't have fish in it, we were trying to catch fish out of it. And then our parents were taking us to whatever lakes. I grew up in Chino, so Prado Park, Pudding Stone, Los Serranos Lake, which is private, but when you're a kid, you just go wherever you want. And so it was mostly the neighborhood I grew up in. We just fished. We were just all fishing nuts for some reason. My first biggest largemouth bass, probably the last largemouth bass that I ever killed, I caught. And me and my buddy rode to Prado Park. Prado Park was about an 8-mile bike ride from where I lived. So it was a little ways. And I was probably 12 years old. And just kind of different world we grew up in. It was like ride your bike 12 miles to go fishing all day. And your parents were okay with it. That don't happen nowadays. But rode my bike. Then middle of the day, my buddy got bored. And so he rode home. And I'm like, if I'm fishing, I fish. Well, I ended up catching an 8.5-pound largemouth bass, and I was by myself. And so I wanted to take that fish home to show all my buddies and show my mom and dad. And so I rode 8.5 miles home from Prado Park with an 8.5-pound bass with my handlebar through his gill. And people go by honking and put their thumb out the window everywhere. I was like, I was the champion riding that bike home with a bass hanging off my handlebars. And so I remember that, riding my bike to go fishing. And by the time I was 15 years old, I was fishing a pro staff for a jig company, and it just continued from there, fishing different jig companies throughout the years, some big, some small, and then eventually turned into being my living. So now I fish more than ever, and I love it.
You're good at it.
I did it once or twice.
I also grew up fishing. Grandparents, parents, avid fishermen. But Grandma Evelyn especially was quite the tournament angler. And if she was here with us today, I know that her and Chad would be out fishing every day.
She would be the president of Hookup Baits.
She would be president and the owner of Hookup Baits. You could not keep Grandma off the water. And she won so many tournaments in the Women's Rod and Reel Club in Yuma, Arizona. My mom was her tournament partner, so the two of them won many tournaments together.
A lot of pictures at her house with them holding big 50-pound flathead catfish and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Primarily saltwater. We had my grandparents had a home in San Felipe, so we went to San Felipe quite often, and so I have great memories of saltwater fishing. But then we also went to being in Arizona to the White Mountains, did some trout fishing as well, but I would say the majority was certainly saltwater fishing.
Well, your mom and your grandma were hardcore catfish and bass tournament anglers in Yuma.
Yes.
So,
yes. And
yeah.
If Grandma Evelyn was here today, she would be fishing every day with Chad. They are two peas in a pod. You could not keep Grandma off the water. She had 3 homes, 3 boats, and she was on the water all the time. And so we often, you even fish with Grandma's rod that we brought back.
Yeah, one of my main tournament rods is one of her rods that I had re-wrapped. She had this big glass blank that I liked the action of it, and I had it re-wrapped in Hookup Bait colors, and that's one of my main tournament rods. I fish tournaments with Grandma Evelyn's rod. It's pretty cool. But part of when I brought up Hookup Baits to Jojo, she said she would love to be in the business, in the fishing industry, with Grandma Evelyn, in a memory of Grandma Evelyn being in the fishing industry, having a business here. So part of why Hookup Baits started.
When we did the Hookup Baits tournament, a couple of years ago, since Grandma Evelyn won so many tournaments. We had lots and lots of trophies, and the old trophies that had a catfish or a bass on the front.
Yeah. You don't see trophies with like you win in Little League or whatever. It's a trophy like that, but instead of a guy hitting a baseball, it's a catfish. This is pretty cool.
And so they just loved them.
Yeah.
So we continue to somehow have our families in
the Pemberton legacy of fishing.
Yes, and it's somehow, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So basically, when I was a kid, I met a guy named John Bill. We were sitting there fishing the Velveeta cheese and stuff like that, and catching trout. But this guy was just catching trout left and right, and he was kind of a loud guy. And he's like, "Hey kids, come on over here. I'll show you what I'm doing." And basically tied jigs onto our rods, and that changed my life. Just basically a lifetime of fishing jigs is what inspired Hookup Baits. Just as making a tube bait the ultimate tube bait.
The Hookup Baits, as Chad has said many times, is creating memories. And I will never forget the night that Hookup Baits was born. We were on a date about 3 months into dating. Chad had had a frustrating day with his previous business that he owned. And I asked him if he could do anything in the world, because I'm a firm believer that you should do what you love. And if you love what you do, it's not work. So on that night, Chad said he believed, and I'll never forget the look that he had. He said, "I can design the best bait that's ever been made." The next question I had was, "Have you ever designed a bait?" And he said no. So I said, "Well, if you think you can design the best bait in the world, let's go into business." Now remember, this is 3 months into dating. Not a lot of people start a business together 3 months into dating. I don't think we even had any idea how exceptional the bait would be in the market. So what is Hookup Baits? It's the memory of that night, seeing Chad's confidence when he's never met a bait before, being able to have the confidence to say this is what he could do. I don't think either of us knew what was going to happen, but we went from him making the baits in the basement of my house to moving to a bigger house that had a large garage to after a couple of years, we moved into a warehouse, and we just recently moved into a much larger warehouse where we doubled production. You never forget about the first retail store that started with you. You never forget about the second or the third, or now we're over 200 retail stores. We have some corporate accounts as well. So you never forget where you came from, and I think that's the heart and soul of Hookup Baits. We have met the most wonderful people in the fishing industry. We have created friendships that will last a lifetime, and that is around the dinner table, that's celebrating them in a tournament, and that's just fishing on the boat together. So that's what Hookup Baits is to me.
Yeah, my favorite fish to catch. If it swims, I like to catch it. It doesn't matter. What I am addicted to is bites. I love getting bit. I love just that whole challenge of fooling a fish in its environment, in its habitat, with a bait I created and getting him to bite. And the more bites I can get, the better. So trout fishing is always like when I said I got sponsored at 15 years old, as mainly jig fishing for trout. And so trout fishing has always been a staple in my life. Nowadays I get to go chase wild trout, just the Pyramid Lake stuff, but then also Oregon and Idaho and in the Sierras and Utah. Trout fishing takes you to very beautiful places, and I like the way they bite. I like the way they fight. I like how they look. So trout fishing is probably in my blood, but I love spotty fishing just because they're there. It's free. You get off work early, you can launch your kayak in the bay and go catch spotties, and they are just so fun to catch. They're challenging. You get people that say, "Oh, spotties eat anything." Well, yeah, a little spotty when the water's warm will eat pretty much anything. But to really consistently catch big spotties, that's a whole different story. And the challenge of catching big spotties consistently, and just where they live, and just how tough and how mean they are. so I love spotty fishing. But then, and the other thing is, catching calico bass with yellowtail mixed in. That's my favorite. If you're sitting there, calico, and all of a sudden you get that bite, and oh, there's a yellowtail. That's a lot of fun too. So those are probably my favorite fishing to do. I like catching yellowtail, but nowadays, I've caught the tuna and I've caught big yellowtails, and I've been on bites where we're catching yellowtail like crazy, and I don't like hurting. It just hurts. And where I'm addicted to bites and don't like pain when I'm fighting a fish, that's why I don't tuna fish anymore. You get too many trips out there where you're driving around all day without a bite, or they're rolling around the boat and you can't get them to bite anything. It's frustrating to me. I'm used to, there's a fish there, they're feeding, I can catch them. Tuna are just weird that way. They get frustrating. And plus, and then you hook one and you're like, I got them. And then after about 10 minutes of you got them, you're like, I wish I didn't have got them. So I just don't tuna fish no more. I'm addicted to bites. And
what about your tarpon?
The tarpon, I would love to go do that again. Well, tarpon was like trout fishing, but it was like a 100-pound trout. So I love tarpon fishing because it's very similar to trout fishing. They're just much bigger, but they jump the same and they react to a bait the same and stuff. So I love tarpon fishing. I'd love to do more of that. So, but anything shallow and lots of bites. That's my favorite stuff. I really don't have a favorite fish. I guess it would be. What's your favorite?
Well, number one, just being on the boat with you. There's just nothing like it.
Mm-hmm.
Chad is the best captain. He can put you on fish. He moves you when there's no fish. So I always feel confident that I'm going to catch a fish. I am on the boat. I've got Chad as the captain, and we're using hookup baits.
Only.
But I think you caught the biggest sheephead first.
I caught that one.
And how big was that?
It was almost 25.
Yeah. So then I caught one next, and that was...
I think that one was your 21-pounder.
Yes.
And then next year, same exact spot, same exact bait. The next year, she caught a 19-pounder.
Yeah.
So, Joe, so you're saying your sheepheads are your favorite?
Well, it's Hookup Baits colors. Come on, yeah. But they're just,
they're pretty cool.
They're pretty cool, and it's those are pretty big ones. So it was tough getting in. But my very favorite was the calico when you asked me to marry you. And that story's amazing.
Yeah.
You want to tell that real quick?
This is early on. It's only second year in Hookup Baits. Is that first year?
First year.
Yeah.
First year.
A couple weeks prior, I asked Jojo, sitting it up, what's your favorite fish to catch? And at that time it was tuna, and I'm like, tuna. So it was back when we had Freedom Boat Club days. We had Freedom Boat Club membership, and took her out and looking for tuna. Didn't see no tuna action going on, and so circled back to the Coronado Islands. Figured maybe I can get it done with a yellowtail. We fished the South Island, and no yellowtail really happening there. So I was just finish off the day calico bass fishing, and we had a good bite on the calicos going on, and so I was kind of thinking that proposal wasn't going to happen that
Now,
day.
know that I knew nothing about this. I think we talked about our second or third date, and we were like, whatever, sometime.
I told you I was never going to get married.
Yeah, you told me he was never getting married. But
and so we're calico bass fishing, and then all of a sudden she was at the front of the boat and I'm at the back, and we had a good bite going. And all of a sudden she's like, ooh, I think I got a big one. I look over and I see the head shakes on a rod, and I'm like, ooh, that does look like good. Where I was thinking maybe a 5-pounder or 6-pounder, calico. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go grab the ring just in case it's a good fish. So I go in my backpack, grab the ring, put it in my pocket, a little ring box. I turn back around, she has it up at the boat, and I look over, I'm like, holy crap, this thing was massive. And so she brought it over, I lipped it, brought it over the rail, and it ended up being around a 9-pound bass, 9-pound calico, and it was on a 5/8 glow green.
I still have it to this day.
She still has it hanging in her office.
It's got a few bites on it, but I still have it.
And so you're sitting there celebrating and stuff, and I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? So as we're sitting there holding it and celebrating, I kind of, you catch bass, they're always spitting things up, right? These funny
and
things.
he's always looking to see what they spit up as well.
Well, but even just hold them, they spit stuff out. So And actually, the fish actually did flip and hit me in the nuts, and so I'm like, ah. I'm like, oh, here's my chance. And so I kind of turned away from her, slipped the ring out, stuck in it, and it just fell into the bass's mouth. That's how big the bass's mouth was. The ring box just bloop. And I come back, hey, look at, he spit something up. And she's like, what are you doing? What is that? You know, and she pulls it out.
Well, I
It's
didn't
the
believe
ring.
you. Yeah.
It's the ring, and then I got down one knee with a 9-pound plus calico bass in my hand and asked her to marry me. So.
And I said yes.
Oh, yeah, see? So that's your favorite fish, huh?
That's my favorite fish.
Well, and what I'm most probably known for is my tournament fishing. I started tournament fishing basically to prove how well the hookup baits work in the saltwater. You know, I started fishing the hookup baits out in the saltwater and catching big spotted bay bass, catching sand bass and calicos, then yellowtail and halibut and white sea bass. And I was going to be happy if I was able to win a tournament, you know, in a couple years. And it just so happens that first year I joined the Saltwater Bass Series, I got Angler of the Year and won the championship. And now fishing this series for 7 years, I now understand that first year, nobody won with as much domination as we did. I mean, we got 3 first place and a second place and a third place. I mean, nobody's done that. In the 7 years I've been fishing it, no one's even came close to that. That was just because we were the only ones fishing hookup baits. The baits are that good. But then also I got into doing a lot of spotted bay bass tournaments in my kayak. You know, back a few years ago they had the Angler's Clothing. He had a pretty good series going. I was the champion of that, you know, 2 years in a row. And Angler of the Year. And then now we got Spotty Bowl. I started fishing Spotty Bowl, which is the biggest spotted bay bass series in California now. But then this year, you know, they started a long LA division and our series, and then a San Diego series. So I ended up getting Angler of the Year in both LA and San Diego, and I won the championship in LA. And I got third place in San Diego, but then we had Tournament of Champions. So anyone that fished Weekend Warrior, Pro, or Masters division that has won a belt in any series in the last 3 years, they put all those guys together from north and south and fished a tournament up in LA and then a tournament in San Diego, and whoever did the best out of those 2 tournaments became the grand champion. And so I won that this year too. So, but really, it comes down to my biggest accomplishment is making memories for dads that took their kids fishing for the first time, catching their first fish, wives that actually like to fish with their husbands now because they can catch fish, you know, and guys catching their PBs, and people having their best fishing trips ever, you know, on all our social media pages. After a few years of making hookup baits, started realizing I get to hear all these awesome stories that were made possible because how easy the hookup baits are and how anyone can fish them and anyone can catch fish with them. That makes me smile. That will never get old, hearing those stories. You know, that's one of our slogans now, making memories. Yeah, we make great baits, but we also make a lot of great memories for people.
When we started Hookup Baits, of course, Chad needed to be noticed out there. So we went to a store that made hoodies. We had a hoodie made and a couple of shirts and a hat, and we put them out there to fish with everybody. Then we found that everybody wanted that hoodie and that hat, that shirt, that performance shirt. So we had to find someone who could help us with our apparel. But it's more than just a hoodie. When you wear the hoodie, you become a celebrity. People come up and ask you, oh, do you fish hookup baits? You know, and so we found that, you know, so many people that started the company with us, we all kind of have our own little celebrity corner. I mean, Chad certainly has his, and the tournament team has theirs, but every fisherman, when you're wearing a Hookup Baits apparel or you're supporting the company, you have that ability for someone to have a conversation. What's Hookup Baits? What is it? What do they do? And so that is complementing the bait, and also developing conversations that turn into friendships, that turn into lifelong friends. From that, we certainly have lots of other accessories, from the mermaid's milk that is designed by Al, Chad's tournament partner, as well as we offer the three-way swivels from Owner, and an assortment of other accessories. But with the accessories and the apparel, we also offer an incredible amount of knowledge. Chad is, to this day, 8 years, he answers everyone's question on social media. If you email the Hookup Baits website, I get the email, and if I don't know the answer, I'm checking with Chad. Doesn't matter if he's on the road or if he's in the office. I ask him the question and we get right back to the customer. So we're very hands-on. We have baits that we manufacture right here in San Diego. We're proud to say they're made in the USA. We're very proud of our team that makes it. They are our family, and no matter how great a salesperson you are, or how great a fisherman Chad is, without the team here, we wouldn't be here today.
A hookup baits can be used pretty much for any fish, freshwater and saltwater, and it can be used anywhere. It is literally the most versatile lure ever designed. Just by the nature of its action, where it gets bit on the sink, it gets bit sitting still, it gets bit retrieving. That makes it effective in every fishing situation you can possibly be in. It works exceptionally well in rivers and streams and moving water and current situations. It can even be used through ice fishing. It's very effective through ice fishing. It's starting to catch on in that market pretty well nowadays. It don't even have to be predatory fish. It catches carp. I've caught plenty of carp on them. It catches catfish, and it catches just every game fish, every fish that eats another fish. He'll eat a hookup bait. Every saltwater game fish in California, except for a swordfish, has been caught on a hookup bait. Over in the East Coast also, it's a huge market for us, so they absolutely catch everything everywhere. So if you're going somewhere fishing and you don't know what to buy a hookup bait. It's gonna work there. You just change the size and technique a little bit, and the end result is the same. It just smashes them.
The best place to shop for all things hookup baits is our website, www.hookupbaits.com. But we also have over 200 retail stores, corporate accounts, and those are listed on our website so that you can find those easily, or you can call us right here at Hookup Baits. Let us know where you're at, and we'll tell you where you can buy them if you don't buy them here online.
No other lure does the action that a hookup baits does. A hookup baits is the only lure that I've ever known, that I can ever think of, and I researched it, does its action to get bit from the moment it hits the water until you bring it back out of the water. It gets hit very well on the drop. It has a ton of glide action, very natural glide action on the fall. And then if you need to fish it sitting still, it sits in the water balanced, just like a fish sits in the water. So it sits in the water balanced, so you can just set it still and it gets bit because it sits in the water correctly. Then it has all the right features, the look of a real fish, the eyeball, the lateral line, the coloring, the profile. So it really looks like a real thing just sitting there. And then when you start jigging it and retrieving it, it has all this darting action, just like a fish fleeing a predator. So it does that action very well. So it does all the natural fish actions. So that's part of the concept of what a hookup bait is. Just a nice, subtle, gliding action that fish do most of the time when they're in the water. They're just gliding around, and the only time they swim hard is when they're being chased by something. Well, hookup baits does that too. All those little factors make it do one big magical thing, and that's catch fish. We've been continuously growing since we started Hookup Baits, and there ain't no signs of slowing down.
No.
We got some big things in the works right now.
Really big.
What's the future of Hookup Baits?
There's no stopping us. I mean, we have expanded across the U.S. with customers.
Yeah, we're coast to coast.
We're expanding in many different states. It's not just a Southern California bait. We really can't thank our customers enough because we wouldn't be here without you.
Yes, for sure.
Our retail partners and our corporate partners as well.
Yeah, our mentors.
And we couldn't have done this without the mentorship of people in the industry.
Thank you, our customers. Thanks for all the support. So let's see.
Thank you,
Let's go.
sweetheart.
Well, thank you for being my business partner and partner in life.